from girls of the world to benefit the Malala Fund. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're on the road broadcasting from Detroit, Michigan, from the studios of Detroit Public Television. In our next segment, we'll look at how Detroit has shut off water to thousands of residents who've fallen behind on payments. Some 350 to 400 customers reportedly continue to lose water service daily in Detroit. But first, we turn to Ferguson, Missouri, where activists are calling on people to join them this weekend for a national protest against police bias and violence against Black and Latino communities in the wake of the police shooting of the unarmed African-American teenager Michael Brown. Organizers have invited the Brown family to take part. Dr. Cornel West, Dr. Harry Belafonte are also among those expected to attend the events, which include a mass march and a planned act of civil disobedience. They'll join local activists who've been calling for the arrest of police officer Darren Wilson, who killed Mike Brown, for the appointment of a special prosecutor in the case and the firing of the Ferguson police chief, Thomas Jackson. This week, Democracy Now!'s Aaron Mate and I sat down with three of the organizers involved in the protests. Tef Poe is a St. Louis rapper and activist who recently wrote a column for Time magazine headlined, "Barack Obama has forsaken us, but we will not stop fighting injustice." We also spoke with Tori Russell, an organizer with Hands Up United, and Ashley Yates, an activist, poet, artist raised in Florissant, Missouri. She's a member and co-creator of Millennial Activists United. I began by asking Tef Poe to talk about what's happening this weekend.
What we're going to see this weekend is a massive show of force by peaceful demonstrators coming from all over the country, all over the world possibly, to Ferguson and greater St. Louis as a whole to stand in solidarity, to speak out against the injustices that happen with police brutality, not just with Michael Brown, but with several people, several different cases worldwide.
You were about to start a tour when Mike Brown was killed, is that right?
Yes, I was.
Where were you?
I was actually being a part of the Vatterott College tour, which ironically enough, Michael Brown was supposed to attend Vatterott College.
Where is Vatterott?
It's located in St. Louis in the Midwest region. It's a Midwest regional trade school, and I was going to help promote the music sector of the school. On the
Did you
tour.
go there?
No, I did not.
Huh. So what happened then?
I went on one date of the tour. I went to Memphis, and I just didn't feel right leaving home with all that stuff going on, with so much commotion in the streets. So I just came back and canceled the rest of my dates.
And what did you do in Ferguson?
In Ferguson, I just got to the ground, to be honest with you. Initially, I didn't know what to do. I was a regular person who I have done some community organizing among some other issues, but nothing so directly attached to the police. And I just got on the ground. I met Tori Russell, I met Ashley, and other youth organizers, and we kind of just formed a united front and moved forward on different issues concerning this one.
Ashley, talk about the organizing in those first days after Mike Brown was killed.
Well, in the first days, I don't know if there really was a lot of organizing. This was a reactionary event. People were just, angry. We were tired. We had seen too many Black lives gunned down at the hands of police. So we just took to the streets to show our resistance to the system that had been working against us. As the weeks passed, then the organizing really started. And it was just pretty much people getting together with the people they had been on the front line with and saying, how can we make sure this doesn't happen again? How can we move forward? And that's why we founded our organization, Millennial Activists United, just to kind of see what those next steps were to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So we focused around a civilian review board at first. We focused around police oversight by the community, whatever that would look like. We focused on removing the people that were in positions of power that had let us down and allowed this tragedy to happen.
Now, some of these demands have come up in the city council meetings that have been held since Michael Brown's killing. Can you talk about the response that you've been getting?
The response from the community is positive. I actually had a closed session meeting with some of the Ferguson officials, and there are definitely people behind the wall that want to make change, but it's a slow process. It's too slow for the organizers, so we're looking to find ways to kind of, punch some loopholes in that and make it move a little faster, because we know that this cannot happen again. So we have to make sure that whatever change is implemented is expedient.
Tori, can you talk about where you were on August 9th when Darren Wilson gunned down Mike Brown?
Well, I was at home, actually watching the Little League World Series. Was the Jackie Robinson team was playing. and everybody was tweeting about that. And then on my timeline, I seen a dead body. You know, surprisingly, I didn't react what you would, you know, probably react to a dead body. I saw the stepfather.
Where do you live in relation?
I stay in North St. Louis, like 8 minutes away. Like my street, I can connect to West Florissant and take that right to Canfield Drive. So I sat there for hours. I even saw the sign where Ferguson PD killed my unarmed son. And it took hours for me to actually move. So one of my best friends, Brother Al Sharif from the Nation of Islam, picked me up. We went to the site. So Brother Shaheed, the family, you know, other people tell me that the father actually took a sheet out to the body because the body was uncovered. And the police wouldn't allow that. So I didn't know what to do, you know, but I went to the police department to try to get some answers. So I wouldn't say I was a born organizer, but I took people there, I tweeted it out, people followed. It started with one lady named Latoya Cash, Brother Montega Simmons for the Organization for Black Struggle, which I didn't know at the time. And it was just us, 8 people, and then it grew to about 100. So we went in, you know, tried to talk to Chief Jackson. He said he would meet with us. Then he drove off.
What do you mean?
So a local pastor, Pastor Johnson at Wells Springs, he kind of brokered a conversation to get some answers about the case on August 9th. It was about 9 o'clock. Because we've been out there about from 6 to 9. So at 9:30, I declared that I was going in, you know. No matter what. If they locked me up or whatever was going to happen was going to happen at 9:30. He kind of brokered the call. 9:45, he said he'd be out. 9:50, he drove off in his truck. About a little bit after 10, me and 5 other people went inside.
Which brings us to the police chief's apology. This is Police Chief Tom Jackson.
I want to say this to the Brown family. No one who has not experienced the loss of a child can understand what you're feeling. I'm truly sorry for the loss of your son. I'm also sorry that it took so long to remove Michael from the street. The time that it took involved very important work on the part of investigators who are trying to collect evidence and gain a true picture of what happened that day. But it was just too long, and I'm truly sorry for that.
So that was Ferguson Police Chief Tom Jackson. What's your response to that, Tori Russell? You were there when he drove off at the beginning.
Yeah, so like I said, I think that was day 50. You know, he took 50 days to acknowledge that it was a tragedy, right? As if he didn't know on August 9th that it was a tragedy. And then if he can come out on day 50, he could have came out on day 1. You know, just to acknowledge that it was an unarmed young man who was killed. A lot of people in the community are saying due process. He wasn't allowed his due process. No acknowledgement of the officer. You know, at first he said someone threw out a name. What was it, Michael White? And then at the press conference they asked Darren Wilson, is that the officer's name? And he said no. You know, so how can I believe the apology after a timeline of lies? August 9th lie, you know, next week he brought out a lie. He brought out the video saying that it was a consent decree in the Sunshine Act, saying that people, the press was requesting this video, which really has nothing to do with the indictment. You can't indict a dead person. You can't indict an officer sanctioned by the state who murdered a boy.
Tefbo, you wrote a piece against President Obama's response on this. I wanted to play what President Obama had to say at the Congressional Black Caucus.
I know that nothing any of us can say can ease the grief of losing a child so soon. But the anger and the emotion that followed his death awakened our nation once again to the reality that people in this room have long understood, which is in too many communities around the country, a gulf of mistrust exists between local residents and law enforcement. Too many young men of color feel targeted by law enforcement, guilty of walking while black or driving while black, judged by stereotypes that fuel fear and resentment and hopelessness. We know that statistically, in everything from enforcing drug policy to applying the death penalty to pulling people over, there are significant racial disparities. That's just the statistics. One recent poll showed that the majority of Americans think the criminal justice system doesn't treat people of all races equally. Think about that. That's not just blacks, not just Latinos or Asians or Native Americans saying things may not be fair. That's most Americans.
That's President Obama addressing the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. Tef Poe, your response. You wrote a piece in Time magazine called "Barack Obama Has Forsaken Us, but We Will Not Stop Fighting Injustice."
Well, I mean, that speech sounds really good and it's really entertaining, but it didn't stop me and my comrades from being tear-gassed. And that's the bottom line. I walked out to the West Florissant one night, and we were surrounded by National Guards with M16s aimed at unarmed civilians and unarmed media representatives. At that very moment, I realized that I could have died. And I looked to the sky and I said, God, I cannot continue to lead my people to the slaughter. We have voted for Barack Obama 2 times, and it still happened. A lot of us young people voted for him with the assumption that what happened during Hurricane Katrina wouldn't happen to black people during his watch. I don't have any outlandish fallacies about what the government can do, but I would realistically expect that if young, unarmed, peaceful, protesting black people are demonstrating our First Amendment right, that we won't be hurdled up like cattle and forced to defend ourselves. And that's the reality that we were facing in Ferguson. It felt as if no one cared about us.
Ashley, in the first few weeks, there was a huge media frenzy in Ferguson. When we were there was satellite trucks packed into that super mall on West Florissant. I recall seeing teams of CNN reporters accompanied by bodyguards. Now most of the media has left. Has the media attention helped, and how have local residents reacted to it?
Well, the reason I'm here, let's be honest, is because I took to Twitter. That first night we went to the police department, I did what a lot of people use Twitter for, and I just tweeted what was happening to me. So I think the media attention has helped, but in the process, we've really became our own media. I've had people come to me and say, you know, we go to Twitter for the real. We go to Twitter to see what's happening in Ferguson. Tef mentioned earlier the twist that they put on the protest where the police officer barreled through the protesters. If you were on Twitter, if you were on the live stream, you know that that is not the truth. So the media has helped amplify some of the truth, but they have also tried to hide some of it. But it's been circumvented by the real presence of Twitter activists such as myself.
There's a lot of talk that this moment in Ferguson has become sort of the ground zero for a national movement. How do you, as an activist there on the ground, take to that, take this perception that you're seen as being at the epicenter of a national struggle?
I think it's a wonderful, positive opportunity, and we're grasping it. We are tired. We're tired of seeing our black men get gunned down. We're tired of seeing our black women get gunned down, and particularly unarmed black people get gunned down to an excessive extent, 11 bullets, 21 bullets, 41 bullets. We are tired of it, and we know that it is not just happening in Ferguson. There's John Crawford in Dayton. There's Ezell Ford in L.A.
John Crawford is the man who was shot dead in a Walmart, holding a Walmart product.
Yes, yes. So we know it's not just isolated to Ferguson. We see all the other cases, and we've made grand efforts to get out to those cities and connect with those people to let people know that this is not just a Ferguson issue. It's a nationwide issue of police brutality that has to stop.
Ashley, can you read your T-shirt?
Sure. We've got Emmett Till, Amadou Diallo. We've got Sean Bell, Oscar Grant, Trayvon Martin. We've got Jordan, Eric Garner. Thank you. Jordan Davis, Eric Garner, Mike Brown, and Ezell Ford. And then if you look at the very bottom, it's to be continued. We want to put a period at the end of that. That is our goal.
So tell us what's happening this weekend, Tef Poe. What are the plans in Ferguson?
Well, we have a series of very creative and very coordinated actions. I think what happened initially, as you heard Ashley speak on earlier, when this incident first happened, we didn't know what to do. We were kind of playing catch-up. So with the Weekend of Resistance, we have the opportunity to show the world that we actually are organized, that we actually are on one accord, that we actually are synchronized. We are going to have a few massive demonstrations downtown, and then some of those people are going to break off into their own private engagements and private demonstrations in different public settings. And we're going to have a concert on Sunday, I believe, like a block party style concert. We're going to use that to try to politicize a lot of young people and maybe register people to vote, connect people with different organizations that can cater to their different issues and things that they're concerned about. It's just going to be a massive opportunity to really engage a large amount of people and also connect with people that feel what we're going through.
I know John Crawford is a major issue for you, Tefpo. John Crawford, who was gunned down in the Ohio Walmart holding a BB gun that was from the shelf.
Right.
Now, the officers were not indicted who killed him. The reason they said is because they were afraid, and it's based on their perception that they got a 911 call, and so they went in armed, ready to kill. What about this idea that police officers are afraid?
You know, I told a police officer the other day while we were protesting, you have the guns and we don't. So the notion that you are afraid of us when you have all of the weapons in the world is ridiculous. You can bring a tank, you can bring an armored vehicle, you can bring tear gas, smoke bombs, you can bring assault rifles. All I have is this. It makes 0 sense.
For our radio listeners.
My hands are in the air. It makes 0 sense. It's illogical. But that shows you the ridiculous nature of racism, because it's the idea that when these young men and these young women are attacked, suddenly they turn into Incredible Hulk, Wolverine, Superman, Spider-Man, and Wonder Woman. And I guess John Crawford could have killed that officer with laser vision, supposedly. So it's just ridiculous, you know. And when you watch the video, it's even more ridiculous that they weren't punished. Punishment, I believe, wasn't even considered. And that's the ridiculous nature of the beast.
A lot of the protests have been on Florissant, and you're actually from Florissant, next door to Ferguson.
Yes, ma'am.
Dred Scott is buried at the Calvary Cemetery in Florissant, and right down the road from Ferguson. Dred Scott was considered the worst Supreme Court decision ever, the decision that said an African-American, slave or free, cannot be a citizen of the United States. As we wrap up, your thoughts on where we have come.
Well, I think we're seeing that in action, right? We're not that far removed from it. Like Tori talked about, the fact that they can just shoot down black people at will and then backtrack and become the jury and find information, whether it be true or untrue, to justify that murder. We saw it in the release of the tape with Mike Brown. That had absolutely nothing to do with it. Darren Wilson was responding on an entirely different call when he encountered Mike Brown. So we're definitely seeing, as Steph talked about, the ridiculous nature of racism, and we have to work on that. We have to recognize it within our communities. And once we start realizing that we really are being weaponized, like our black skin is being weaponized, people are seeing our melanin as a threat, then we can move forward. And that's what we're really working with the Weekend of Resistance, is moving forward, showing people that they are not alone. I went to Dayton, spoke with the Ohio Student Association, who's doing a lot of the work around the John Crawford case. They've been a great help in just building with other communities that see the same issue, that have had the same problem, and we can move forward from there, change the perception. Right, change the perception of what it means to be young and black, and I think that's what all of us are doing here. We're young, black, we're motivated, we're organized. We are not threats simply because of the color of our skin.
Tori Russell, last comment.
The Dred Scott case is the key part of October 11th. We're going to meet downtown. We're going to go by that site. We're going to go to the courthouse, and that's about, 140 years removed. And we're still at that date in history.
1857.
Yeah. So I mean, that's 150, 160. We're about that time, and we're still at Mike Brown, and we're still at Dred Scott. I don't know what year it is. When I'm in St. Louis, I don't know. And weeks of tear gas, like I said, I don't feel so American after getting tear gas. You know, and Eric Holder stepping down after he walked in and said that he wanted to have this race dialogue. Here it is, he steps down. We had the meetings with the Department of Justice. They said all they can do is sue, and they don't sue for money, they sue for recommendations. So, I mean, that's why this Weekend of Resistance is key. So people can know what's going on, what we had, and in 50 to 60 days, you can go home and organize. You can be just like me, coming from off the couch, off of Twitter, 60 days later, running a protest, shutting down economies and marching and organizing people in the streets.
Finally, Tefpo.
You know, the thing that I'm big on is showing the infrastructure of the police and other racist institutions that we are not scared. For so long, fear is the reason that people like ourselves have not got off the couch. Last night I had a show in St. Louis, and they surrounded the venue with about 50+ police officers, They had undercover police officers inside of the show. I've done over 100.
This was Sunday night.
Yeah, last night, Sunday night. I've had over 100 shows at this venue. It's a place where my talent was groomed at. And they even went to the owner on Thursday and asked him to cancel the show. So this is a mechanism of fear. They're hoping that this is a way that will make people like myself and other young people that are following our lead say, you know what, maybe we're doing too much. Maybe we need to stop. But the message that we're sending to the system is that we're not going to stop. We are resilient. I told a police officer once, you can only do two things to me. You can kill me or you can lock me up. Once you get past being scared of either one of those options, a brand new world opens up.
5 seconds.
That was Tef Poe, a St. Louis rapper, an activist, Tori Russell, an organizer with Hands Up United, as well as Ashley Yates, an activist, poet, artist, and co-creator of Millennial Activists United. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. Back in a minute.